Here's something that took me 30 years to figure out. The people who walk through life with the most confidence, they're not the ones with the biggest bank accounts or the fanciest titles. They're the people who've learned to hold everything loosely. And I mean everything. Your reputation, your possessions. You need to be right. See, most people grip their life so tightly that they're terrified of losing it. And that fear, it shows in your body language, your decisions, your relationships. Today, I want to share something with you that changed how I move through the world. Stay with me on this one. Years ago, I watched a man walk into a room full of executives. He wasn't the wealthiest person there, wasn't the most powerful either, but something about him made everyone turn. He moved like he had nothing to prove and nothing to protect. I remember thinking, what does this guy know that I don't? It took me a long time to understand what I was seeing. This man had figured out something most people never do. He disconnected his sense of worth from his circumstances. He wasn't performing with confidence. He was living it. Here's the thing I eventually realized. True confidence doesn't come from accumulating more. It comes from needing less. When you stop clinging to outcomes, to approval, to stuff, something shifts inside you. You become lighter, freer, and people can feel it. This isn't about being reckless or not caring. It's about holding your life with open hands instead of white knuckles. It's about walking like you own nothing, yet fearing nothing. Let me break down exactly what this means and how you can start living this way today. Let me paint a picture for you. You wake up tomorrow morning. First thing you do, grab your phone. Check your notifications, check your emails, check how many likes that post got, check your bank balance, check. And before your feet even hit the floor, you've already started worrying. Worrying about what people think, worrying about bills, worrying about that meeting later, worrying about whether you're falling behind while everyone else is getting ahead. Sound familiar? Here's what I've observed after decades of studying human behavior. Most people are walking around absolutely terrified. And I don't mean terrified of spiders or public speaking. I mean terrified of losing what they have, terrified of looking foolish, terrified of being seen as a failure. And that terror, it's written all over their bodies. I can walk into any room and within seconds tell you who's operating from fear. It's in how they hold their shoulders, how they avoid eye contact, how they laugh a little too loud at the boss's joke, how they shrink themselves to fit in. The body never lies, my friend. Never. Some of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about because you felt it yourself. That tightness in your chest when you're about to ask for a raise. That nervous energy when you walk into a party where you don't know anyone. That constant low-level anxiety humming in the background of your life. And here's the tragedy of it all. Most people think this fear is protecting them. They think, well, if I just hold on tight enough, if I just worry enough, if I just control enough, then nothing bad will happen. But that's backwards. That grip is the very thing destroying your quality of life. I've met millionaires who can't sleep at night because they're terrified of losing their money. I've met executives who've climbed to the top and feel more insecure than ever. I've met people with beautiful families who can't enjoy a single moment because they're consumed with worry about what could go wrong. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Your fear is boring. I know that sounds harsh, but hear me out. When you're operating from fear, you become predictable. You play it safe. You say yes when you mean no. You blend in. You become just another person clutching their little pile of stuff, hoping nobody takes it away. And people can sense this, not consciously maybe. But something in them registers that you're not free, that you're performing, that you're trying to protect an image instead of actually living. I remember meeting this businessman years ago. On paper, he had everything: big house, nice car, important title. But when he walked into a room, people didn't respect him. They tolerated him, and I could see why immediately. His body language screamed insecurity. He puffed out his chest too much, overcompensating. His handshake was too firm, trying too hard. He name-dropped constantly, seeking validation. He was so busy trying to prove he was somebody that he'd forgotten to actually be somebody. The really sad part. He had no idea. He thought he was projecting confidence, but everyone around him could feel the desperation underneath. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, that's not me. I'm not that guy. Maybe not to that extreme. But be honest with yourself for a second. How often do you do things just because you're afraid of what people will think if you don't? How often do you say yes to things you don't want to do? How often do you water down your opinions to avoid conflict? How often do you stay quiet when you should speak up? That's all fear, just dressed up in nicer clothes. And here's what fear costs you. It costs you your authenticity, your energy, your relationships, your opportunities, your peace, your life, really. Because a life lived in fear isn't really living. It's just existing while trying not to lose anything. I've been there myself more times than I'd like to admit. I spent years of my life trying to accumulate enough success, enough money, enough recognition that I would finally feel safe. Finally, I feel like I've made it. Finally, I felt like I could relax. You know what happened? The goalpost kept moving. Every achievement just revealed a new fear. Every milestone just created a new thing to protect. I was running on a treadmill and calling it progress. So here's where everything changed for me. I was in my 40s, stressed out of my mind, working constantly, and someone asked me a simple question. They said, "What are you so afraid of losing?" And I started listing things: my reputation, my business, my relationships, my health, the respect of my peers, on and on. Then they asked a follow-up question that stopped me cold. And if you lost all of that tomorrow, would you still be you? I didn't have an answer. See, I had confused what I had with who I was. I built my entire identity around external things, things that could be taken away. And because of that, I was living in constant low-grade terror of loss. Here's the aha moment, and I want you to really sit with this. You came into this world with nothing. You're going to leave with nothing. Everything in between is just borrowed. Your possessions, your reputation, your relationships, even your body, all of it is temporary. Now, most people hear that and feel depressed, but that's missing the point entirely. When you truly understand that you own nothing, something incredible happens. You stop being controlled by the fear of losing things. You start holding life loosely. You become free. Think about it like this. Imagine you're holding a beautiful bird in your hands. If you grip it tightly, what happens? You crush it. The thing you were trying to protect gets destroyed by your protection. But if you hold it with open hands, the bird can stay or go. And weirdly enough, it's more likely to stay because it's not being suffocated. That's how it works with everything in life. Your relationships, your career, your money, your reputation. Grip too tight and you strangle the very thing you love. Hold it loosely and it flourishes. I can hear some of you pushing back already. But Allan, if I don't hold on tight, won't I lose everything? Don't I need to protect what I've built? Here's what I've learned. There's a huge difference between being responsible and being fearful. You can work hard, plan wisely, take care of your health, nurture your relationships, all without being terrified of losing them. The difference is in your grip. Responsible people prepare for the future while enjoying the present. Fearful people sacrifice the present trying to control a future they can never fully control anyway. Let me put it another way. There's a reason why some people bounce back from disaster and others crumble. It's not because the ones who bounce back don't care. It's because they've learned to separate their identity from their circumstances. I've met people who've lost everything: bankruptcy, divorce, health crisis, career implosions. The ones who recovered fastest were always the ones who said, "That was painful, but it's not who I am." The ones who stayed stuck were the ones who couldn't separate their worth from their stuff. When their business failed, they failed. When their marriage ended, they ended. They had no solid ground to stand on because they'd built their entire foundation on shifting sand. If here's a question for you: if you lost your job tomorrow, who would you be? If your relationship ended, who would you be? If your reputation took a hit, who would you be? If those questions make you uncomfortable, that's useful information. It means you've got some identity work to do. Now, I'm not saying detachment means you don't care. That's a common misconception. The monks and philosophers who talk about non-attachment aren't saying become a robot with no feelings. They're saying stop letting your peace of mind depend on things outside your control. You can love your career and still know you'd survive if it disappeared. You can cherish your relationships and still maintain your sense of self if they change. You can enjoy your possessions and still hold them loosely enough that losing them wouldn't destroy you. That's the sweet spot. That's where freedom lies. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop being terrified of losing things, you actually become more attracted to good things. People want to be around those who are free. Opportunities flow toward those who aren't desperate. Life opens up when you stop clutching. I've watched it happen hundreds of times. The person who stops chasing validation starts receiving it. The person who stops fearing rejection starts getting accepted. The person who lets go of controlling outcomes starts seeing better outcomes. It's almost like the universe rewards those who trust it, or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe you just become a more pleasant person to be around when you're not constantly radiating fear. All right? Let's get practical, because philosophy is great, but you need to actually do something with it. Here's how you start walking like you own nothing yet fear nothing. First, audit your identity attachments. Sit down and make a list of everything you're afraid of losing. Be brutally honest. Your money looks, your intelligence, your reputation, your relationships, your health, your status, all of it. Then look at that list and ask yourself, if this thing disappeared, would I still be me? If the answer is no, that's an alarm bell. It means you've fused your identity with something external, and anything external can be taken away. The goal isn't to not care about these things. The goal is to care about them without needing them to know who you are. Second, practice small surrenders. You can't go from white knuckle grip to open hands overnight. It takes practice. So start small. Let someone else choose the restaurant. Let a minor insult go without defending yourself. Let someone be wrong about you. Let a small opportunity pass without fear of missing out. Each time you practice releasing control over small things, you build the muscle for bigger things. You prove to yourself that you can let go and survive. Actually, you more than survive, you thrive. Third, change your body language. Here's something most people don't realize. Your posture doesn't just reflect your mental state, it shapes it. When you stand tall, take up space, move slowly and deliberately, your brain actually starts to believe you're confident. I've spent my whole career studying this. The relationship between body and mind is a two-way street. You can change how you feel by changing how you hold yourself. So pay attention to your body right now. Are your shoulders hunched? Is your jaw clenched? Are you making yourself small? Stand up. Roll your shoulders back. Take a deep breath. Move like you have nowhere to be and nothing to prove. That physical shift will start to create a mental shift. It sounds too simple, but it works. Fourth, rehearse the worst case. This is an old Stoic technique, and it's powerful. Regularly imagine losing the things you're most afraid of losing, not to be morbid, but to realize you'd actually be okay. Imagine losing your job. What would you do? You'd figure it out. You'd find another way. You'd survive. Imagine losing your money. What would you do? You'd adapt. You'd rebuild. You'd simplify. Imagine losing your reputation. What would you do? You'd focus on the people who actually know you. You'd let the rest go. When you mentally rehearse these scenarios, they lose their power over you. You realize that the thing you're terrified of isn't actually death, it's changed. And change, while uncomfortable, is survivable. Fifth, stop broadcasting fear. Remember, your body is always talking. And if you're operating from fear, people can read it even if they can't articulate what they're sensing. Watch for these tells in yourself. Excessive explaining and justifying, nervous laughter, constant apologizing, inability to hold eye contact, speaking too fast, fidgeting, shrinking your physical presence. These are all signals that say, I'm not sure I belong here. I'm afraid you'll reject me. I need your approval. And they push people away, not because people are cruel, but because neediness is exhausting to be around. When you start walking like you own nothing yet fear nothing, your body language naturally shifts. You become more grounded, more present, more comfortable in your own skin, and people respond to that. Sixth, let go of the timeline. A lot of fear comes from comparing yourself to where you think you should be. I should be further along. I should have achieved more by now. I should be more successful than my peers. Say so. Those timelines are mostly fictional anyway, created by social expectations and Instagram highlight reels. Let go of the shoulder. Focus on what you're actually doing today. Are you moving in a direction that matters to you? Good, that's enough. Seventh, find your actual flaw. Here's something interesting. Most people dramatically overestimate what they need to be okay. What do you actually need to survive? A roof, food, maybe a few people who care about you. That's about it. Everything else is nice to have, not need to have. When you realize how little you actually need, the fear of losing the extras diminishes. You remember that you're not as fragile as you thought. Now let me be straight with you. Everything I've just shared, it's simple to understand. It's hard to do. You're going to slip back into fear. I still do. After decades of working on this, I still catch myself gripping too tight sometimes. I still catch myself worrying about things I can't control. Still catch myself seeking validation I don't actually need. That's okay. This isn't about perfection. The goal isn't to become some enlightened being who floats above human concerns. The goal is to catch yourself faster, to release the grip sooner, to return to freedom more quickly. Some days you'll walk like you own nothing and fear nothing. Some days you'll wake up anxious and spend the whole day clutching. That's being human. The difference is you now know there's another way. You've seen the door. Even when you forget it's there, you can find it again. I want to tell you about someone I met years ago. She'd lost almost everything in a business collapse. The house is gone, marriage over, reputation damaged, at rock bottom. I expected her to be devastated, and she was for a while. But then something shifted. She told me, you know what I realized? I spent my whole life being terrified this would happen. And now it has happened. And I'm still here. I'm still me. All that fear was wasted. That's the thing about our worst fears. Most of the time when they actually happen, we handle them. We adapt. We find a way through. The anticipation is usually worse than the reality. She rebuilt, by the way, different life than before, smaller in some ways, richer in others. And she carried herself differently, lighter, freer, like someone who'd already faced the worst and discovered she could survive it. That's the gift hidden inside loss. It proves to you that you're more resilient than you knew. But here's the thing. You don't have to wait for disaster to learn that lesson. You can choose to release the grip now. You can practice walking like you owe nothing before life forces you to. So where does this leave us? Let me bring it all together. Most people are walking through life terrified of losing their stuff, their status, their security. And that fear is visible. It's in their body language. It's in their choices. It's in the anxious energy they carry into every room. But it doesn't have to be that way. When you realize that everything you have is temporary, something shifts, not toward depression, toward freedom. You stop gripping and start living. You stop performing and start being. You stop chasing and start attracting. Walk like you own nothing, not because you don't care, but because you understand that your worth isn't stored in your bank account or your job title or your follower count. Your worth is something that can't be given or taken away. Fear nothing. Not because bad things won't happen, they will, but because you know you can handle them. Because you've stopped building your identity on shifting sand. Because you've found solid ground inside yourself that no external circumstance can shake. This is how you want to move through the world. With open hands. With a grounded presence. With the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove and nothing to protect. People will feel it when you walk into a room. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll know something is different about you. You'll take up space without being arrogant. You'll be present without being needy. You'll be powerful without being threatening. Here's my challenge to you. Starting today, notice where you're gripping too tight. Notice where fear is driving your decisions. Notice where you've confused what you have with who you are. Then practice letting go. Just a little. Just enough to remember that you can. Because the person you could become, the person who walks like they own nothing yet fears nothing, that person is already inside you. They're just waiting for you to stop being so afraid. Let them out. The world needs more people who are truly free. Be one of them.